Hey folks, welcome back to another Dice Tower preview. I'm Mark, and today we're taking a look at Firesiege, a Feralis Story, which is brought to you by Deer Game Studio. It's for 1 to 5 players, ages 12 and up, and games generally run about 60 to 120 minutes. It's a dark day on the island of Elamor, a day of death. Medda, the capital of the kingdom of Norad, trembles under the blows of Zagal and his Skreel army. The front line has fallen, and the battle is played out in the walls of the citadel now, under the watchful gaze of the Zur fortress and the secrets contained within. Firesiege, a Feralis Story, is a limited communication cooperative game. You, the players, control a Valkun Hero with unique abilities and skills, and turn after turn, you play action cards to resist the siege of the army of Skreel that are crawling into the city of Medda to kill your leader, Norad. The enemy's army is near to infinite. Thus, in order to win, your troops must outmaneuver the Skreel by fulfilling different goal cards until you have managed to flip all 6 banner tokens to their victory side. Each game will present you with a different challenge, depending on the goal cards and, of course, scenarios selected. And thanks to those goal cards and the scenarios like the campaign mode that you might play with multiple ways to engage with this game, you have so many options, and it really keeps the game fresh for every play. And typically you will always be playing with the Destroy All Nests card. Now, obviously there's multiple setups here based on player count and so forth, but in general, this card will be in play. And what you're doing is you'll see that there are 3 nests located around the board: green, gold, yellow, and red. So you'll have to destroy these, and in doing so, you'll start to flip over your banners, and that's how you're gonna win the game. So that's the key way. This is the #1 way to do that, but the other goal cards that get put into play will allow you to flip those flags as well. So there's lots of different ways to do that based on which cards are in play. And the thing that's neat too about the general one, the one about destroying the nest, is that the stronger the nest is, the more flags you get to flip over. And so, as you can imagine, with so many possible goal cards, it really will change up how you play the game each time. Also, as you'd expect in a game of this type, tower defense, cooperative play, yes, there are a multitude of ways to lose. First, we have the Horde track, and through the course of the game, your marker will move. It will start on the number based on the player count, and it'll move around this spiral as it moves ever closer to the middle. If it reaches the middle, you are going to lose the game. If a hero is eliminated, any one hero, you lose. Also, you have all these enemies marching ever toward the middle of the board. If an enemy reaches the middle and destroys your leader, yes, you also lose. And finally, if you have hunters or the Skreel queen that needs to be added to the board and you run out of supply, that's the other way to lose. So yes, multitude of ways to be vanquished in this game. Now, the way everything activates in this game is based on actions that you perform, and you have tiles that you'll be randomly drawing from your bag and placing into your player board. You can only look at the one side as you place it, so you don't know what's going to happen on that reverse side. However, your fellow players across the table from you will have some indication about what's going to happen. And so, as you'd expect, there's lots of icons in this game. It might seem daunting at first, but as you play even just a couple rounds, all these icons become very intuitive. So your action tiles have 2 sides. You have a light side and a dark side. And as you'd expect, the light side is going to be all good and happiness when you do those actions. However, on the dark side, in general, it's going to be bad. However, there are some good things that could happen. But in general, the dark side is definitely the bad side of the tile, and those actions will have to be carried out. So you will follow along those icons and do everything that they say, and then flip your tile and do the actions on the other side as well. So like I said, your fellow players across the table have some indication about what you're going to be doing. So communication is key. You can't give away what's on the other side of their tile, but you can talk in general terms around the table about what we might do next and where we might go and what we might affect. A big key component to this game is your power-up tracks. Now this board has 2 sides, and it's going to be universal to all the players, and it, based on player count, will determine which side you're using. But you have 4 main tracks here. The green track is going to be all about your movement and tactics that you might use with your heroes or your Valkun warriors. The next track, blue, is going to be how many of those Valkun warriors you can summon when you pull into the game. Now, these are white tokens that you'll be putting out on the board, and white meeples, and they just add to your overall strength. They are fairly weak. When they take damage, they only have 1 health. but they do add a +1 to your strength when you engage in battle. So it is crucial to have them out there and move them around effectively. Next, we have our level of attack strength. Again, moving this up is going to give you even more power when you engage in battles and so forth. And then we have general power, and you're going to be using this for your special abilities for your different heroes, which we'll take a look at. So you have a couple different ways to use this power. You can spend 5 to basically upgrade your hero so you have access to those special abilities. And then once you have access, you may have to spend power in order to activate those abilities of your heroes. And there's various things, and they all do really powerful things. So upgrading them through the game is definitely a key thing you should try to do. So it really is interesting how you have to split. And when you have an action that says add power, you can choose which path to move along. But again, cooperatively trying to figure out what is the best path to use. Which brings us to heroes. What a great segue, right? So they are all color-coded, but not only that, their miniatures are going to be in a pose that matches their particular player card. And you have your basic side, which will show their health as well as their attack strength over here on the top right. And then at the bottom, you'll see a couple different ways to actually waken them. And there's triggers based on the different heroes of how that might happen just within the game itself. But you can always go and pay the 5 energy to wake them up as well. And once you do, you have a better health and you're going to have better attack. And then you have your special abilities. Here we have charged, which is going to still cost you 1 energy if you use this ability in play. But then you have a passive ability as well. And this one particularly for the knight I love because it will stun, basically flipping either the hunter or the queen on their side so they can't really activate in that next turn. But the stun action is definitely a key thing you want to have throughout the game. But all the heroes are going to have special abilities, very powerful abilities. So it really does pay off to use them in a way that you can trigger their awakening or perhaps just pay the energy in order to do so. Now, just a couple key things about the main board. You have these spiral tracks moving towards the center, and they're all color-coded based on the nest that they are attached to. So you have breaches in the wall, which are tokens, and you're going to start with some of them, and you'll get actions on your token, your action tokens, allow you to deal with breaches, either seal them up or add them, because potentially you might need access to an area much quicker based on where your Valkun warriors are or where your hero is moving in and dealing with them. Then you have the Horde track at the top, and at the bottom you have a Marall track. So this Marall track is interesting because you can potentially have an ally, a creature, a powerful creature to do various things. And depending on where the track is and when it activates, when Horde cards get drawn, potentially they will help you out, or they'll just be neutral, or they're going to do something for the Horde themselves. So in your turn, you're going to be fulfilling all the actions of one tile that you choose on your player board. And again, it has 2 sides. So you got to do the ones that are visible to you, and then you flip it and do the others. So again, it's going to be some good, going to be some bad, and you're going to go back and forth with those different types of actions. And then you have some other actions that are just available to you in general. Like I said, awaken a hero, or use the special ability of a hero, or a passive ability of the hero, or simply fulfill one of the objective cards, which is one of the key things you're trying to do, and flip over banners. So those are the key things you're doing on your turn. But of course, there's so many possible actions that could happen. So as an example, let's take a look at one of these tiles. If this tile was facing me on the light side, the first thing I'd do is add power to the power track. Then we're going to do a breach, either add a breach in the wall or remove a breach. And then we have to flip this token over and do what's on the other side. Here, sadly, we have to move down our attack power on our power levels, and then we have to draw a Horde card. Now, that's just one of the ways a Horde card can come up. You might get an icon that forces you to move along the Horde track, remembering that once it reaches the middle is one of the ways to lose the game. So these Horde cards are really how the enemy activates. And in the case of this one that we drew for our action token, you'll see that we're going to be adding a Skreel in each of the zones near the nest. And sometimes the cards will have you move them as well. And that's really how they're going to be activating and moving generally using these cards. But this particular card also activates the mercenary at the bottom of the board. And based on where you are on your Marall track will determine if it's good or bad. And that card will activate and then get discarded, and you'll have a new mercenary available to you. Now, another key thing about adding Skreel to the board is there are 2 major things here. If this icon shows a little swirl marker on it and there is no nest then you can't spawn one. So that's a key aspect of these icons as well. Also, if you were ever to add 3 Skreel to one location, that's going to spawn a queen. You remove the Skreel and you'll put a queen there in their place. So the Skreel are basically a strength level of 1, and the queen are a level 3 strength. So that's what you need in order to defeat them in battle. So those action tiles that you pull, again, are going to do numerous things. They might heal your heroes if they're down in damage, but there are 2 big actions here that we haven't talked about yet. The big one being, we kind of touched on, but you may have to advance along the Horde track. And in doing so, you'll be drawing potentially a Horde card, or you might spawn one of these warlords. These are the big baddies in the game. And all the monsters in general, as they move, when they do move, they will be moving ever closer to the middle of the board, obviously. So those are a couple different things that can spawn off of here. Again, you'll have warlords, or you're going to draw Horde cards, or you're just going to move that marker to the next spot, and it's going to get ever closer to the middle where you potentially will lose the game. But again, all these warlord monsters are going to have their own card with their own abilities, their own movement, all that kind of stuff, and power. So you'll have to be mindful of these guys because they come out and they are definitely something you have to deal with. Now, for you, the heroes, one of the icons that you're really on the lookout for is the Valkun icon, which matches basically these meeples that are on the board, and you'll be able to activate those warriors as well as your hero to do various things. First and foremost, you can move based on the power level of movement. You can move around the board, and you can split that movement up between different types of units. Either your Valkun warriors and your hero in order to converge into a spot and take on the enemy. Or you can spawn a number of Valkun warriors as well, because that is another way. Again, you're going to get overrun pretty quickly, so you want to get as many of those out there as you can. And the big option available to you is attacking. And what's nice here is that you can accumulate all your strength into one particular area that you're trying to remove the enemy. Maybe you're going after the warlords, or you're going after a nest. But if you aren't going after a nest, you have to have already removed all the units in that area. But in this example, we're going after 2 Skreel, and we're going after a queen. So we're going to need 3, 4, 5 points of attack power. So you can move into the area with your heroes and your Valkun warriors. Your Valkun warrior is going to add a +1 to the attack. Any other heroes that are in the area are going to add a +1. And then if you've awakened your hero, he's going to have a +2 for attack. And then you add in your attack value power, as well as roll the attack dice. And so you take that full attack strength and apply it against all the enemies that are in the area. Hopefully you can take them all out in one fell swoop. And one last thing worth mentioning is that there is a Horde dice that you're going to be rolling. This dice will either potentially move along the Marall track or move along the Horde track and do various things as you roll it. But your action tile will show if you need to do so, and perhaps even eliminate some of your Valkun warriors that are on the board. So those dark side of your action tiles can really hurt you at times. And you know, overall, this game is definitely a race against time, because you have so many different ways to lose and only really one way to win. Alright folks, just a reminder once again, this has been a Dice Tower paid preview, and everything you've seen here has been in prototype form, so keep a close eye on the campaign for any changes that still may occur. Now with that said, you know, this game has some really unique things going on. It is a tower defense game at its core, but it takes it off in a new direction and lots of replayability here. I like how the actions work, how you have to sacrifice some things in order to do some good things, and again, like I said before, it does feel like a race against time, and I like that time pressure in games as you try to move and defeat your enemy and fulfill the requirements to win the game by flipping over these banners. But as you play, you'll discover that as you put different objectives into play, it really will change up some of the things you're doing, like dramatically. So I like that aspect as well, each game feeling very fresh. And your heroes in general, using them and awakening them is really a key aspect. But folks, ultimately, if this looks like something of interest to you, I'm sure they'd appreciate your support. So I think that's it for me, and until next time, we'll see you at the table.